Om Namo Narayana Jai Swaminarayan. Welcome back as we work our way through the Ramayana. Actually, it's sort of through the last bit of the Ramayana. We are on chapter 75 today. Only reading chapter 75, though. This is called Bharatha meets Kausalya. That valorous one got back his senses after a long time, and seeing his mother, who was miserable and with tear-filled eyes, started finding fault with her in the midst of the ministers. "I never desired this kingdom, and nor did my mother consult me about it. I was not aware of the plan of a coronation, as I was far away from here along with my brother Shatrugna. I did not know about Rama living in the forest after his being banished along with Lakshmana as well as Sita." Having recognized the loud crying sound of the great Bharatha, Kausalya told Sumitra, "Bharatha, the son of the cruel-hearted Kaikeyi, has come back, and I would like to see Bharatha, who can see far away in time." Having said this to Sumitra, the pallid, tired-looking Kausalya, who was sullied, trembling, and almost lifeless, proceeded to the palace of Bharatha. At that time, Bharatha, the younger brother of Rama, along with his brother Shatrugna, started going towards the palace of Kausalya. Then Bharatha and Shatrugna, seeing the very sad Kausalya, who was sorrowing, who had gone down, who had lost her senses, who was weeping, and who was a very dear lady overtaken by sorrow and worries, approached her with sorrow and embraced her. Exceedingly sad Kausalya, seeing Bharatha, said to him, "The kingdom that you desired has become yours without any difficulty, and this was speedily arranged by the cruel act of Kaikeyi. I do not understand what advantage that cruel Kaikeyi got by sending my son to the forest wearing a robe of bark. It would be but proper for Kaikeyi to send me speedily also to that place where my son, with a stomach of gold and a very great fame, now lives, or otherwise of my own accord, accompanied by Sumitra to safeguard me, I would go to the place where Rama lives, along with the sacred fire of the home. It would be more desirable for you to take me to that place where my son, who is the tiger among men, is performing penance. This huge country, which is blessed with wealth and grains and abounding in horses, elephants, and chariots, has been given to you by her." That spotless Bharatha was pierced by many such cruel words of reproach, and that Bharatha was intensely pained. Hearing those maddening words, he fell at her feet, crying and losing his senses, and on regaining them he stood up motionless. Bharatha saluted her who was wailing like this to the very great sorrow, with great reverence, and said to her, "O lady, why are you finding fault with me, who is bereft of any guilt? Do you know the very great affection that I have towards my brother Rama? That one who advised that my brother, who was virtuous and ever wedded to the truth, should be sent to the forest, does not know the Shastras. Let that sinful person who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest be made to work under a sinner and get the sin of urinating facing the sun and kicking a cow that is lying down. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest acquire the sin of a person who made another one work hard without rest and without remuneration. Let the man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of that person who does not fight courageously in a battlefield with an ample army, elephants, horses, and chariots. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin like the king, who after collecting 1/6 of their income from the people does not care to protect him. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin like the king, who after promising monetary fee to conduct a yagna to the ascetics, later denies it. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin like the person who goes to the battle in which abundant elephants, horses, and chariots are provided, as also a great collection of weapons are provided, yet does not discharge his dharma by fighting well. Let the man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin like the evil-hearted one who destroys the subtle meaning of scriptures taught by a learned guru. Let the man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest be like me, be unfortunate in not being able to see the long-armed, broad-shouldered one who resembles the moon and the sun in luster sitting on the throne. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of one who eats sweet milk rice, sesame rice, and goat's flesh without offering it first to the gods, and disrespects his teachers. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin like the person who kicks the cows with his feet, abuses the elders, and causes offense to his friends. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin like the wicked person who passed on the secret told to him with trust to others. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest be hated by the world, like the one who never helps, who is ungrateful and is shameless, who takes his own life. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of the person who, though surrounded by wife, children, and servants, eats all alone without giving it to them. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest die without getting a worthy wife, without getting offspring, and without performing religious deeds. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest lead a life full of misery, without begetting wife and children, and who does not live a full span of life. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin as told in scriptures, for murdering the king, children, old people, and deserting all his servants and dependents. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin got by a person who looks after his dependents by trading in lac, wine, meat, metal, and in poison. Let the man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin like a warrior who runs away when war is in full swing, fearing for his life. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest wander like a man wearing rags, and begs alms with a human skull in his hand, and wanders on this earth. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest be always addicted to wine, women, and gambling, and be full of anger and passion. Let not the mind of that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest be not attached to Dharma, and practice charity to the unworthy. Let the accumulated wealth of that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest be snatched away in 1,000 different ways. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin fixed for sleeping at dawn or dusk. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of one who betrays a friend and violates the sanctity of the bed of the Guru. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of a person who does not do service to Maines and his father and mother. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest be removed from the men following Dharma, from their fame and the deeds practiced by them. Let that man who advised that my brother, who is long-armed and broad-chested, should be expelled, has committed the sin of leaving out looking after his mother for no reason at all. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest, and who has many sons, become very poor, suffer from fever and disease, and be always miserable. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of destroying the hopes of pitiable beggars looking up to get some alms from them. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of that person who is abusive, miserly, impure, goes against Dharma, and always is afraid of the king due to practicing deceit to entertain their life. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of that wicked person who neglects his virtuous and chaste wife, who has observed the menstrual period so that she is ready for conception and has taken the ritual bath after her periods. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin like the one who neglects Dharma, and leaves the properly wedded wife and makes love to another man's wife. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of that Brahmin who lacks children. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of the person who pollutes drinking water in its source and administers poison to others. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of a person with disturbed mind, who disturbs the worship being done by a Brahmin and milks the cow having a young calf. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of the person who has the stock of water but does not give any of it to one who is thirsty. Let that man who advised that my brother should be sent to the forest get the sin of a person who, while judging religious disputes, takes a biased view from one side. That son of the king, trying to console Kausalya, who had lost the company of her husband and son, became very sad and fell down at her feet. Kausalya told these words to Bharatha, who was lying down to the great grief. O son, seeing your increased sorrow due to various oaths, my suffering increases, and I felt as if you were choking my breath. My dear child, your mind has not moved away from Dharma. Being truthful along with Lakshmana, you will attain the world of virtuous people. After saying this, Kausalya drew the lover of his brother, made him sit on her lap, and embraced that mighty one, and cried. That great Bharatha, who was lamenting due to great sorrow, became besieged by great grief, and swooned, and became unsteady. Greatly lamenting, he lost his consciousness, and having lost his power of thought, he fell down on the ground. He passed that entire night taking deep, warm, and torturous breaths. Thus ends chapter 75. So I forgot to mention something, and that is, I've actually read this chapter before. As always, I mention when I am not completely coming at something new. I actually did the video for this already. I was near the end when my light went out, and I was near the end when my camera said it was full. So I quickly rushed and I uploaded the videos, and then I finished it. And then when I went to download, the second part and put it with the first part so I could upload it to YouTube, I couldn't find the second part. I have no idea. Maybe I didn't even record. So I have read this before. Here we are at a second take. That being said, there's many things we can say about this chapter, but the one thing I find very interesting is the historical, you could say maybe historical or Vedic aspect of it, and all these sins, the sin of this, the sin of this, all these sins, which are fascinating to see what is considered a sin in this culture, in this point in time. Sins which today, I don't even think most of us even think about some of these things, and we certainly would not consider these things to be sins, but here they are. So this is very interesting from that point of view. I'm going to bring the video to a close here, and just say thank you for hanging out with me as we make our way through the second book of the Ramayana.